Oh, I'm wearing red because it's almost fall, darling. It's fall. It's the season of fall. Well, fall's not here yet, but it's almost here. And my birthday is next week, and it is the official, like, ode, the beginning to fall. And so we get excited for all things fall around these parts. I'm a fall person. Favorite. I was about to say holiday. Because it feels like a whole holiday. Because a lot happens during the fall in terms of holidays. Hey y'all, it's Ashley Bookishrealm, back with another video. I hope everyone is doing well, that you are healthy. There's a lot of not great things running around, illnesses. I don't know what's going on with me. I want to say I'm getting over something, but I have this like lingering chest congestion that is making me very nervous right now because of my asthma. And so I'm keeping a close eye on it. It is like breaking up. It doesn't look like it could be an infection, but I have to be very mindful of that, because usually that means I have to go on a steroid in order to reduce the inflammation of my lungs, and it sucks. But y'all are not here for that. Y'all don't really care about that. But I'm just saying, I hope everyone's staying healthy and well, because, you know, this is the season for sickness. Favorite season, but also the season in which typically everyone gets sick, including myself. All right, so I did another little thing. Y'all know how I do. I get on Instagram, I ask these questions, and then I'd be like, give me, you know, your response to these questions, or to this specific question. Not only did I like ask the question wrong, but I'm glad that whoever did answer, you were able to interpret what the world I was trying to say, because clearly I didn't know what I was trying to say, because I went back and I read it and I was like, yo, like, how did y'all decipher what the hell I was talking about? But you managed to decipher it, so we're just gonna go ahead and jump into this. We are reacting to your unpopular bookish opinions. Now, I have reacted to the worst books that y'all have ever read. I have reacted to your toxic book traits. And so, you know, I have fun doing these. I know, like, people do these, but I had never done them up until this point. And so I can see why people do these. They're fun. You know, they're fun. Okay, so I'm going to do the same. I do about, like, 6 to 8 of these, because usually I get enough answers where I'm like, you know, I'm gonna take 6 or 8 and then we're just gonna go with it. I don't say who they're from. Everyone can remain anonymous in terms of like what comment is associated with who, because I don't want to reveal that information. Safe space, the whole 9. But some of these, y'all was feeling some type of way, which is fine. It's fine, but y'all were really, I mean, really feeling some type of way. But yeah, it's cool though. All right, let's go ahead and jump into it. The first one that we have, having 10 plus copies. Let's see how many of these I get through with a straight face though. That's gonna be the whole thing. Having 10 plus copies of the same book is useless. Y'all, please do not feel personally attacked, because some of y'all are gonna feel personally victimized by Ashley's Instagram stories, and that's fine. It's all right. It's perfectly fine. I'm also, listen, I'm not a book collector, so I kind of feel this comment, because when I say I'm not a book collector, it doesn't mean that I don't actively try to purchase books that I enjoy. I am not a collector in the sense where I like to have multiple editions of a book. I don't know, I've never been, I guess, entertained by that. It's not to judge anyone who loves that, who truly enjoys the whole idea of having multiple copies of a book. It's just not for me, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not for me, and that's okay. And I agree with this person. What do you do? Like, what if, like, you know, you have this fascination with a book, and some books are just not as timeless. And maybe that's why I kind of look at it that way, is that some books are not timeless for me. Maybe they're timeless for you, but what are you going to do with those books like 30 years from now? It's just, I mean, genuine. It's just a question. 5, 6 editions of one book. What are you going to do 30 years from now? Are you going to feel the same way about this book 30 years from now? It's just a question. It's not an attack. I promise not an attack. It's just genuinely a question. I mean, you could say anything. You could say that about any book that you own. But I know people like put money, hardcore money, and if you got it, flaunt it. But I just would be like, oh my gosh, if I have this beautiful edition, like this has got a book that I think I'm gonna love for the rest of my life. And I do enough rereading to where I know that there are very few books that I reread time and time again, and I'm like, best book ever. But that's me. I'm putting this in the framework of me, but I have a tendency to agree with that. Book talk hype. This is number 2. Book talk hype doesn't usually mean a good book. I'm gonna give book talk some grace with this, and I rarely ever do. I rarely ever give them any sort of grace, but I'm gonna do it today. I think that any hype for any book does not guarantee that it's gonna be a good book. I think that what makes the situation unique is that some people live by book talk, and not just like us in the bookish community. I see people who are not engaged on social media, like book talk is the Bible in terms of recommendations. It's word. If book talk says it's good, it's a good book. And so I get that. But any hype from me personally does not mean that it's going to be a good book. As a matter of fact, hype usually scares me, not because I'm like, oh, I'm better than the, no, it's not one of those pretentious I'm better than the masses. It makes me nervous because I always feel like I'm going to read a hype book and I'm going to be that one person that just doesn't get it. That's why I have a fear of reading hype books, because I'm like, I'm not going to get what everybody else is getting. And every now and then I do come across some and I'm like, huh, I get the hype. I see why. This is the good one. Not every book needs to have spice, especially YA. Your mileage will vary on this. I think it's down to the person. It's definitely down to the person. I think this is a very valid feeling to have. I do not dictate what spice should or should not exist in anyone's book, because some people like spice. I think that what spice and YA creates a different conversation. It's definitely worth having. It creates a completely different conversation where I have seen teens who have come into the library when I was a teen librarian, and not parents, but there are teenagers who will ask, hey, do you have any YA books that just, no romance, and sometimes if they were comfortable, like, I just don't want to read that, and it would make them uncomfortable. And I think that needs to be taken into consideration. I've done a video on this, like, does every YA book need romance? Because some teens are not necessarily ready for that. This has nothing, and we're not delving into people who are gatekeeping content for book banning a completely separate conversation. But there are literally some teens who just do not feel comfortable with more spicy content, and spice being whether that is romance or whether that's overtly sexual content. I have never read one that has had overtly sexual content, meaning the way that I would read it in adult romance. There has been insinuations, but nothing on the level that you would see in an adult book. But even that is a thing that can make a teen uncomfortable, which also brings back this conversation of like, who is YA really written for at the end of the day? There's this issue now, middle grade now is experiencing it, unfortunately. I hate to see that, but YA is being marketed at older readers, not necessarily the demographic that is, what we say for teens in the library, age 12 to 18. That's not typically who YA is being written for anymore, or they're not always kept in mind. Or if they are, it's often the upper end of YA. And so when you think about YA, I think people are thinking, 16, 17, 18, but they need to remember that 12, 13, 14, and 15-year-olds also are in that. And so if you have everything filled with spice, I don't, you know, how do I give that to a 12-year-old? Yeah, I don't know. This is definitely a good, I like this one because it brings forth a lot of conversations about the issues in publishing, accessibility for younger kids, and then, you know, thinking about content, what one kid is emotionally and mentally ready for, another kid may not be. And so there should be some equal playing field where there's books that are appropriate for both groups that come into, you know, contact with the material. So ooh, I think so. We just hit a nerve here. I can't stand these new low angst, no conflict little character growth romances. Okay, so wow. Listen, I am not immersed in the romance world that much. I do read romance occasionally. I read a lot of books that have strong romantic elements, but I do not primarily just read romance. And so I know that there has been some interesting things with romance. I also do not read a lot of traditionally published romance because of, I think, the way that it's structured, the way that character development happens, plot development. I never do well with traditionally published romance, and so I have a tendency to stay away from it because I know that essentially when it boils down to it, like, it's not for me, and I don't like to engage in something that I know is not for me and then, you know, kind of tear it to shreds. It's not fair, in my opinion. But I don't know if this is for traditionally, I'm at a loss for words, which is fair. I don't know if this is for traditionally published romance, but I'm not necessarily going to make a comment on it because listen, much respect, because I'm not in this world as much as maybe you are. And so, yeah. All right, now, sis, you knew when you made this comment, this next one, you knew when you made this comment, this was going to have the girls in a tussle. And I know you don't care. You don't care, and it's fine, because I don't care either. But we just gonna go ahead and drop it. Sarah Janet is not that good. That is the comment. Sarah Janet is not that good. Now, I have read 3 Sarah J. Maas books. I've read Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, and A Court of Thorns and Roses. And I think I gave all of those 3 stars or above. And so I am not a part of the Sarah Janet fandom where I read everything that she comes out with. I own, which is interesting, I own all of the Throne of Glass series and then most of the Court of Thorns and Roses series, or I own all of them, I think. I do not own the House of Earth and Sky, Blood, whatever. I don't, whatever that series is called, I don't own it. But I think that people have grasped onto her and she has a strong fan base. And I have not read enough of her yet. I still have all of them. It's amazing that I just have not had the inclination to do it yet. But I don't necessarily feel as though having a strong fandom always means that you are the best writer out there. I know that there are some very critical views and perspectives of her work, and there's an enjoyment factor there. People really just seem to enjoy her, get lost in her world, and it's not necessarily about this big critical thinking type of situation, which, you know, it's popcorn, just, you know, popcorn books. It's pure entertainment. I understand that. I don't think I will ever be a part of the Sarah Janet fandom. I'm a part of very few author fandoms like that, and most of them are like children's lit authors at this point, so not anything that, you know, the booktube or book talk community, Bookstagram does. It's a lot of kids Bookstagram type folks over there that I'm in fellowship with now. But as far as these platforms, like, no one's gonna really care like who I'm fangirling over. But yeah, I don't think I'll ever be part of the fandom. But she has created this formula of fantasy romance that has a lot of us, not me, has a lot of the community in a chokehold. And this individual said, she ain't that good. She ain't that good. This is a good one. This is going to be the last one. And I think this is, I'm glad that you commented this if you watch this video. I don't think it's an unpopular, I'm hoping this is not an unpopular opinion, but I think that it's very valuable to share it. I'm so sick of people sidelined, stigmatized, disability rep whenever it comes to reading diverse. I think that for some of us, not all of us, because I know that some people do make it a point to include disability representation, especially those that are more stigmatized in their reading. And I think that in reference to this comment, one of the things that came up when I saw it was that when people hear reading diversely, sometimes I think it's often associated with race. I think that is such a common misconception, and even I have fallen into that pit hole of equating diversity only with reading books from authors with characters of different racial backgrounds or racial ethnic backgrounds. And it is an easy trap to fall into, and you leave out so many different types of diversity and forget to include those forms in your journey to broadening your horizons. And stigmatized disability definitely is one that people will put off to the sidelines. I myself have been guilty of doing that, and am working to get better at being more aware. When I say that I read diversely, being more aware of, am I really reading diversely in terms of looking at different areas, whether that is race, religion, ethnicity, ability, whether I'm looking at translations, like am I really truly reading diversely if I'm only thinking about race, or am I just using that as a mask and calling it reading diversely? So I think that that's a good point. And a hard pill to swallow, I think, is someone who is a huge advocate for reading diversely, who attempts to read diversely and has noticed gaps in their own reading when it comes to disability representation. That's a hard pill to swallow, especially ones that are more stigmatized than others, because I think that there are forms of disability representation that are, I don't want to say easier for people to talk about, but are more common for people to seek out than others. And so it's a tough pill to swallow when you realize, like, yeah, you're right. That is an area that often gets overlooked, and an area that I think we can all improve on. And I don't personally, I know this is reacting to unpopular opinions, but I just want you to know, the person that made that comment, that that's not an unpopular opinion. That is a wake-up call for all of us who consider ourselves to be advocates for reading diversely and broadening our horizons, that it is very easy to leave out individuals that are experiencing things that we may not see on a day-to-day basis, and we can't truly call ourselves reading diversely when we don't check that lack of awareness that we have within ourselves. So thank you for commenting that. I just want you to know that it made me think about some things whenever I saw that you had sent that in. Even if I didn't say anything back to you, I do appreciate you commenting that. All right, y'all, that is it. Those are some of your unpopular bookish opinions. Thank you. Y'all gave me a lot more than that. You always give me so many to choose from, but you know, I would be here for hours, literally hours. I like this song, but that's not appropriate for me to sing. I'm not gonna sing this song. I was definitely about to sing this song, and I just thought about the fact that's not appropriate for me to sing at all. Not at all. But thank you for all of you who have constantly commented and given me some material to keep doing this. I really enjoy doing it. It's really, really fun. As always, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content from me, click the subscribe button and the bell for notifications. And if you are looking to support the channel, all the links will be down in the description box below. And I'll be back with another video soon. Bye.
I'm on my own, broken and alone. I feel the rain crashing down.